They asked them, who are the 10 best quarterbacks in the league? And so, it's a lot of predictable people. Josh Allen above Mahomes. We've been on that for several years now. Burrow doesn't make the playoffs anymore. He's at 4. Dak Prescott has 1 playoff win ever at 6.
2.
Oh, I like to see Jared Goff and Caleb Williams in there. But where's Sam Darnold? And that's what's really interesting. Even the GMs in this league don't know what the hell to do with Sam Darnold. Back-to-back 14-win seasons, totally different players, offensive linemen, coordinators, coaches. Back-to-back 14 wins and a Super Bowl. Since 2022, that's 4 years ago, he has the highest win percentage of any quarterback in the league. More than Mahomes, Lamar Jackson. He's 32-9. 4 coaches, 4 coordinators, 4 teams, 4 rosters, 4 owners, 32-9. Almost 100 passer rating. All started once he was benched in Carolina, got the job back, went 4-2. Christian McCaffrey, one of the great players in league history, was there in Carolina and talked about when Darnold first arrived to the Panthers.
When I first met him in Carolina, from the jump, I was like, this guy's a dude. And the more and more you see him at practice, that you see the throws you make, you understand why he's a top pick in the draft. And then you're around him more, and you're like, this is one of the best players I've been around, period. And it's because of how talented his arm is. He's way more athletic than people give him credit for. And he's really good at taking what's given to him and doing his job.
Christian McCaffrey's like, that's one of the best football players I've been around. Carolina's had some good ones. McCaffrey's been around some good ones in San Francisco, like 6 Hall of Famers with the Niners. Yeah, Darnold's one of the best football players I've been around. So when he came out of college, I said there's a little Brett Favre and a little Andrew Luck. He can be reckless. Arm, athleticism, toughness, leadership, guy's A++. I loved him out of college. I admit in Carolina when he got benched, I was like, I'm not sure what to do. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't think I'm wrong. I see like a little Andrew Luck and a little bit of Brett Favre, and people, oh, that's ridiculous. Well, how many Super Bowls does Favre have total? Oh, 1. How many does Andrew Luck have? None. Sorry, this is football. It's not baseball. We don't care about your batting average.
All right, let's dive straight in. No time to waste. I have to say, I'm genuinely fired up to break this down, because I've got a lot of pent-up opinions on this topic. And honestly, seeing this particular list has given me a huge sense of vindication, though probably not for the reasons most people would expect. As many of you know, I'm a massive supporter of Sam Darnold, that's no secret. So, before we get into the thick of it, I want to extend a quick but crucial request to all the Seattle Seahawks faithful out there. Please, I'm begging you, make sure you hit that subscribe button and watch this video all the way through to the end. When you do that, it genuinely makes a world of difference for the channel's visibility. The view counts and subscriber numbers just take off, and I want to be clear that this isn't about chasing vanity metrics for the sake of it. It's about one thing, having the platform and the resources to continue creating Seattle Seahawks content that you all actually find valuable, that you want to engage with and talk about. That's the only way we can keep having the most objective, level-headed, and brutally honest conversations about this team. Your support in this regard truly makes a monumental difference, and I cannot stress enough how much I appreciate it. Now, getting back to the main subject, I told you all a while ago that Sam Darnold's recent victory wasn't going to silence his critics, right? The moment he secured that win, the immediate question on from the talking heads was, did he finally shut up the doubters? And my response was a firm and unequivocal no. This is coming from someone who has been in Sam's corner from the very beginning, who was adamant that he would thrive in Minnesota and, more recently, that he would find success in Seattle. I was practically a lone voice in the wilderness on that front. Anyway, I was recently browsing for some old footage and stumbled upon a segment from NFL Live from a few days ago. They were showing ESPN's analytics from the previous season, highlighting the teams that ultimately clinched playoff berths, and the Seahawks were on that list. The analysts were acting shocked, saying, nobody expected these teams to be any good. And I'm sitting there thinking, are you serious? I was honestly tempted to create an entire video just reacting to that one segment, because I was like, don't say nobody. Don't say nobody. I was telling everyone right here. But even with that, I had a gut feeling that this one wasn't going to fundamentally alter the broader narrative or change people's perceptions all that much. I just knew it. It was incredibly obvious and clear to me. And that's the truly baffling part. People keep complaining that they can't figure out the criteria for these rankings. I've now produced several videos based on this very list. This is my first one for the herd, and it's patently obvious that the methodology is all over the place. What are we actually using to judge these quarterbacks? If the primary metric is Super Bowl victories and playoff success, as Colin seems to suggest when he dismisses statistics by saying this isn't baseball, then why isn't Jalen Hurts higher on the list? He's not making the argument that Hurts deserves to be in that upper echelon. So, it can't be solely about Super Bowls. Let's test that theory. Josh Allen is ranked ahead of Patrick Mahomes, who has multiple Super Bowl rings. Matthew Stafford has a ring, too. So, it's clearly not just about championship hardware. Maybe it's about the quality of the roster around them? This is where the conversation starts to get genuinely interesting. Sam Darnold has navigated through multiple head coaches, numerous offensive systems, and various roster constructions. He certainly had some talented teams around him, especially in Minnesota and now in Seattle. But the key point is that he didn't just exist on those teams, he performed at an elite, top-tier level and, crucially, he translated that performance into victories at the highest level. It's similar to the criticism that Jalen Hurts faced. People were quick to knock him for having success with a great supporting cast. But the counter-argument is simple: plenty of other quarterbacks have had phenomenal rosters and failed to win. We're talking about the likes of Dak Prescott, Jared Goff, or Caleb Williams. They had the talent around them, but they didn't get the wins, plain and simple. And it's not a binary situation, where you either won the Super Bowl or you didn't. We also have to look at the quality of that performance. How did they play in the most critical junctures of the game, the high-pressure moments in the fourth quarter, against the league's elite teams, or in the playoffs themselves? This is where Sam Darnold stepped up and delivered. So, is it objectively true that Sam Darnold had a superior team to Drake May last season? Absolutely. He had a far better supporting cast. But he also played at the highest possible level and, more importantly, he capitalized on those opportunities, like when he went head-to-head against Matthew Stafford and the Los Angeles Rams. One could easily argue that the Rams' offense and coaching staff had a lot more going for them than Seattle did. But then you could counter that Stafford had to face a much tougher defense. That's a valid argument. So, if we want to get into the weeds with that kind of nuance, we really, truly have to have a deep and thorough discussion about it. Consider this: Matthew Stafford and the Rams' offense stalled spectacularly against the Chicago Bears, especially when compared to what the Seahawks managed to do against that same Bears team. The disparity is massive. It's not even close. The Rams were utterly ineffective. Meanwhile, they didn't win. Caleb Williams had incredible weapons at his disposal and a fantastic coaching staff, yet he couldn't pull it off. The immediate defense for Williams is usually, he's only in his second year, what do you expect? But Jalen Hurts got to a Super Bowl in his second year with a phenomenal team. Sam Darnold, in his very first year with a great Minnesota Vikings team, was one game away from securing the #1 seed. Then, when his offensive line struggled in the playoffs against the Rams, he got hit hard. But the very next year, he went out and beat that same Rams team, playing some incredible football. And can we please stop with the revisionist history regarding the Los Angeles Rams defense? It wasn't some pushover unit. People are trying to retroactively claim it was akin to the Cincinnati Bengals or Dallas Cowboys defenses, which is simply not based in reality. The Rams had a high-quality defense. If you truly believed that their defense was terrible and that the Seahawks were vastly superior, then why did virtually every analyst and pundit pick the Rams to win? Why were they consistently favored and ranked higher than Seattle throughout the season? You all knew about the special teams' concerns before the game even started. It's not like it was some new, shocking revelation that appeared on game day. That was a known factor all year long. So, where were we in that conversation leading up to the matchup? All of this leads me to my core point: Sam Darnold clearly deserves to be ranked higher. I'll use Dak Prescott as a benchmark because he's a good reference point. Out of all the quarterbacks on the list, Dak is the one I'm most confident in making a direct comparison with Sam. For some of the other names, I'd have to really think hard about it, because the context changes significantly when you're talking about a quarterback's trajectory moving forward. That's where things get complicated with younger guys like Drake May and Caleb Williams. You're trying to weigh what you've already seen against the potential and production you anticipate they'll have in the future. They simply have a much shorter track record than everyone else on the list. But Dak Prescott has a full body of work, and I think Sam measures up favorably. I also look at a player like Justin Herbert and give him a lot of leeway because he hasn't had an easy situation. His coaching staff, offensive line, and supporting cast of weapons haven't been great. He doesn't have a dynamic receiver like Jackson Smith-Njigba to rely on. So, I cut him a lot of slack. Now, when I look at this list, my personal interpretation is that it was assembled with a tryout mentality. It feels like we're supposed to evaluate all these quarterbacks as if we're seeing them for the first time at a trial, without placing too much emphasis on what they did in 2019 or 2020. We shouldn't be primarily relying on historical record, total career wins, or number of Super Bowls. Instead, we should be evaluating based on the pure quality of play we see on the field, right now, in the present moment. It's about the eye test. Forget the statistics, forget the analytics, and forget the career. Accomplishments. What does your gut tell you when you watch them throw the football? I think this is a huge part of how the list was generated. And if that truly is the underlying criterion, Sam Darnold passes that test with flying colors. He excels at it. Chris McCaffrey made a great point recently, noting that Sam doesn't get enough credit for his physicality and athleticism. That's something I highlighted early last season. I often use a thought experiment where I pretend I don't know anything about any of these players. I just watch them play as if it's the first time I've ever seen them, ignoring their reputations, their past contracts, and their previous accolades. It's a refreshing and honest way to assess performance because you're just focused on what's happening right in front of you, not constantly looking in the rearview mirror. And when you apply that lens to Sam Darnold, he clearly looks like a top-tier NFL quarterback. You watch him, and his style is reminiscent of Josh Allen. Now, I want to be very clear, Josh Allen is an absolute monster and a unique, generational talent in his own right. There's no doubt about that. But you can see those similar flavors of athleticism and playmaking ability in Sam's game. To me, Josh Allen is easily, unquestionably the best quarterback in the NFL right now. No question about it. Personally, I might even put Matthew Stafford at number 2, but I'd have to really explain my reasoning for not knocking him for having such a GRE. At roster. It comes back to the eye test. I know what he can do. The tryout test is paramount. I see the quality of his play and everything else, but I also need to elevate a quarterback who performs with a weaker roster, or conversely, hold it against another who has a stacked supporting cast. It's not about stats. I don't use Stafford's touchdown totals or his box scores as a reference point. When I argue why Stafford should be ahead of someone else, it's not about who has more passing yards. It's strictly about the film. What do I see when he drops back? I favor that eye test over everything else, and Sam Darnold passes that test completely. And if you want to factor in stats, career accomplishments, playoff wins, or resilience in overcoming multiple coaching changes, Sam Darnold passes that test too. There is no metric, no lens, no statistic, and no mentality you can apply to craft a list like this where Sam Darnold isn't included in the top 10. It simply doesn't make any sense at all. None. And that's precisely why Colin's argument fell flat for me. He's not pushing for Jalen Hurts to be in that elite group, even though Hurts has been a Super Bowl MVP. He's not putting Hurts ahead of Joe Burrow or Dak Prescott. I don't even know if he'd rank Hurts above Baker Mayfield. So, you have to figure out the criteria, and then you have to be consistent with it. If you're going to deviate from the criteria, which is completely acceptable in a nuanced debate, you must have a sole ID explanation for it. You have to explain why this particular quarterback is an exception. You need to articulate how it's not a contradiction, but rather a different layer to the conversation. That's all fair game, but you have to be able to unpack it and justify it logically. So, I challenge anyone, please, unpack why Sam Darnold is not a top 10 quarterback. Try your absolute best to make that argument, because I guarantee that most of the reasons you provide will end up disqualifying a bunch of the other quarterbacks currently on this list. At the same time, be extremely careful with your argument for why Sam should be in the top 10, because then you might have to remove other players or insert new ones. Figure out your criteria first, and then proceed. But those are just my 2 cents. I would absolutely love to hear your perspectives. What do you all think about this top 10 NFL quarterback list, which was apparently compiled from a survey of league personnel, including executives, scouts, and coaches? Colin mentioned something like, the GMs don't know what to do, which is an interesting take, but I have my doubts. And this is where it always gets a bit murky for me. I don't know the exact methodology. Is it every single executive and GM? The term execs is so broad. Does it just mean GMs, or does it include other high-ranking front office personnel? There are a lot of people who work for an NFL team, far more than any of us fans ever realize. And then it mentions outs. Does that mean the entire scouting department of every team, or just one scout from each? Was it 12 teams? 20? How is it actually conducted? That's a huge factor in the validity of the list. So, let me know your thoughts. I make it a point to read every single comment. Another question that comes to mind, can scouts and execs vote for their own players? Because if you're a scout for a specific team and you personally scouted a quarterback, you're probably going to have a higher opinion of him than others might. It's only natural. So, there's a lot of nuance to this. I want to hear your thoughts, regardless of whether you agree with me or completely disagree. Let's get some good discussions going. Let's engage in some friendly but passionate debates. Ultimately, though, let's just have some fun with this. Please do consider subscribing to the channel. We're building a fantastic community here, and I absolutely love seeing you all be a part of it. My goal is to build something that we all feel genuinely connected to, something that we're all excited to be a part of. I think we're well on our way to achieving that. And please, don't forget to give this video a thumbs up, it really does help with visibility and the algorithm. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you all in the next one.